I'm Lori Rivera, artist in Southern Indiana, and today I am demoing how I went about painting this. And this went through many stages. I think as it looks right now, I think it looks good just about any way. I think I like it best this way, but I think it looks good anyway, and that's unusual. Usually there's a couple ways that I don't like a painting, but this one I like always. So it's 11 by 14 canvas, white gesso for my white paint, cadmium yellow light, quinacridone magenta, phthalo blue, and burst sienna. And I also use paintbrushes and color shapers. These are silicone rubber paintbrushes. I love them. You get great texture with them, great coverage, and they help you loosen up. And then I also used acrylic markers. And these are Artistro brand acrylic markers. I got them for really reasonable on Amazon. And all right, I think that's all the supplies I use. I think we're ready for the demo. Let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to paint my background first. I'm painting it a solid color. This is called toning your canvas. And basically there are different reasons you can tone a canvas, but the reason I do it is so that when I'm finished with my painting, if there are any areas where the paint is thinner, none of the canvas will show through into the final painting. Because the last thing you want is little specks of the canvas showing through. So I just painted a solid color. I mixed, I mixed phthalo blue, magenta, and white together to get this purple color. I ran out of paint, so I mixed some more. This time I have more magenta in there than the blue, which is fine. It doesn't have to be, your first layer like this doesn't have to be a solid color. You can have different colors in there just as long as you cover up the entire canvas with paint. It doesn't matter if it's a solid color or if you have lots of colors in there. Just cover up the whole canvas. So I just about got that done. So now I'm going to start working on my composition. Well, I say composition, not really. I'm not working on the composition yet. I'm just kind of adding paint at this stage. Kind of just adding random paint in different places, not worrying about the composition yet. Just kind of having fun, playing with the paint, just getting some paint on the canvas so that it's not, a blank slate. I'm using my color shaper. This is a 2-inch color shaper that I'm using right now. And I mixed phthalo blue and magenta in, I think, equal amounts to get this color. It's a pretty color, isn't it? A lot of times my abstracts will go through many layers. And as you can see in this painting, and as I will discuss later, it went through many ugly stages. So you can imagine, and eventually I'll do some demos of bigger canvases like 36 by 36 or 30 by 40 or even like 18 by 24, maybe something like that. So I'll eventually add videos where I'm painting larger canvases, but for right now I'm just doing this 11 by 14 size again. And that color right there, I mixed some of that purple color with yellow to get kind of that, it's almost like a taupe color. And I'm just adding it in different areas. Keep adding more. And like I said, I'm not worried about the composition at this point. At this point, I'm just trying to lay down color and cover the entire canvas with the second layer. I added some white to that taupe color, so now it's lighter. I think I was trying to get it even lighter than that, but Anyway, it still looks kind of like taupe, but it's like a very, very light taupe color. Abstracts are my favorite thing to paint. I love them because they're challenging. They're so challenging. To me, it's the most challenging thing to paint. Not to minimize realistic painting, because yes, that is hard also. However, anybody can learn to paint realistically. Anybody can learn to paint abstracts too. It's just a little bit, it just takes different muscles in your brain to paint an abstract versus painting realistically. In my opinion, painting abstracts is more creative than painting realistically. I guess that's the difference, the main difference. Like when you're painting realistically, it's skill. It's all technical skill. But like painting abstracts, that requires creativity more so than painting realistic pieces. And I guess in my painting practice, that's what I value the most, is creativity and being able to be creative and really tap into that side of my brain where I can just be free and paint whatever I want, you know? So I had some of that yellow in there. I'm not really liking that yellow too much, and you'll see eventually it'll get covered up. Now I'm putting some marks in there with the yellow. And I really thought this painting was going to be done faster than it was, but as time went on, I just didn't get it the way I wanted it. I just couldn't get it to look good. Like, it went through, like I said, a lot of ugly stages, and this is one of them. Usually the ugly stages are, like, in the middle. The ugly stages with this one started faster, I think. It was early on that it was ugly. So if you enjoy this video, be sure and leave me a comment. Leave me a comment with a link to your work so I can see your work, and I'd love to see what you're working on. Putting some little marks in there again. And this will all get covered up eventually. Like I said, I thought I was really working on the end part of this painting right here, but as it turns out, I ended up covering it up. I decided I didn't really like it. Sorry for my messy table. My table's always a mess. My studio's always a mess. Oh my gosh. Sometimes I can hardly walk through my studio. That's when I know I really have to clean it up. And, you know, I'm the type of person that I'm more likely to get in the studio if my studio is organized and nice and clean and neat. It's just a more inviting atmosphere. When it's a mess, I have the tendency to not want to get in there and do anything. I usually do anyway, but it's just harder. You know, it's just harder to get in there and get motivated and going. All these marks you see me putting in here right now, even though they're going to be covered up, they helped create texture in the end piece. So that's very important. It's very important to have some texture in your pieces. If you put the paint on thin for the whole painting, then it almost just looks like a print, you know? But if you have some texture in your painting, it really makes it look like a painting and makes it come alive. So now I'm using turquoise. I mixed phthalo blue, yellow, and white to get this color. I'm not digging these colors right now. The purple, yellow, and the turquoise. I'm not really liking the way they're playing with each other. They're not playing nicely. I'm not a big yellow fan. Anyway, I'm not even sure why I put yellow in this painting. It'll be covered up later, so it doesn't matter. But I'm not a big fan of yellow. I love orange, but not yellow. With that being said, I mean, there are lots of paintings that have yellow in them, and I love them, as long as it's not like a whole lot of yellow. But, you know, now that I think about it, I did paint a piece a few years ago called It Takes Two to Tango, and it had a lot of goldish yellow in it. I mean, that was like the primary color in the painting, so, but I liked that color of yellow. It was a very, kind of a muted yellow, kind of gold yellow that was muted. So I liked that. So I'm still just putting marks in here. I'm making one big mess, honestly. It's just a mess right now. Oh my gosh. Still using my color shapers. I'll use a paintbrush later on in the video. And when I do these, when I paint these little canvases, the little 11 by 14s, this is just a super value canvas from Michaels. It's a 1/2 inch deep, so it's not a really high quality canvas. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just not thick as, you know, the nicer canvases. It's not as deep. And, but, you know, there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with painting on these. They're just not as nice as the more expensive ones. But when I paint on this kind of canvas, I paint the edges solid instead of wrapping around the composition to the edges. Now, on my deeper canvases, I wrap around the composition to the sides. So, but these I just paint them solid. And as you can see, I purposely made mud. Mud is what artists refer to when you mix a lot of colors together, and it literally just kind of looks like mud. So in the middle there, you can see where I mixed that purple and yellow together, and it kind of looks muddy. Something else to remember too is that your bright colors will pop a lot more if they're on a neutral background. So if you really, really want your focal point to pop in your piece, make the rest of the painting more like neutral colors. And like I said, if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do so. I try to post a demo every Friday. So far, I've just posted 11 by 14 demos, but in the future, I will be posting some demos of me painting larger pieces. Probably my favorite size to paint is 30 by 40, which that's a nice size. It's not considered large by most people's standards, but it's kind of large for me, because like usually the largest canvas size I paint is like a 36 by 48. I have painted a couple 48 by 60s, but my studio really isn't big enough to accommodate that size of a painting. So 36 by 48s are really probably the biggest I can go easily in my studio. I added a lot of yellow. I'm starting to like the piece better since I added all that yellow in there, that light yellow. I'm kind of breaking that composition up. But as you'll see, this is nowhere near what the end of the piece is going to look like. Well, you saw it. You saw it in the beginning of the video. I held up the piece so you could see it. It looks nothing like this. But like I said, even though I painted on a lot of layers in this painting, those layers, even though they got covered up, they provided good texture for the piece. So you know, even if your layers get covered up, they weren't a waste. They weren't a waste at all, because usually it just adds more texture to your piece. Each layer is important, even if it doesn't show up in your final painting. And it has taken me years and years and years to be able to paint decent abstract paintings. I used to paint pieces and I would get to the ugly stage and then just quit because I'd get frustrated and I just couldn't get it to look right, and little did I know that that's normal, that abstracts go through an ugly stage. I just thought I couldn't paint, you know? I just thought I would give up, and I would end up with like tons of unfinished canvases in my studio. And I mean, there's something more demotivating than to have a bunch of unfinished canvases, you know? So, yeah, I just had to keep practicing and practicing, and yeah, just practice a lot. I can't tell you how many hours I've had putting in, you know, painting and stuff, but it would be interesting to know how many hours I've painted in my life. That would be interesting to know. I have no idea. Right now, my goal is to paint 10 hours a week at least. Like 2 hours. I shoot for 2 hours a day during the week, during the weekdays. And even though 10 hours a week doesn't sound like a lot, I can get quite a bit done in 2 hours. But not only that, when you're an artist, there are lots of things you do other than just paint. You have to maintain your finances. You know, if you use a spreadsheet, recording your income and expenses, you're spending time cultivating relationships with your collectors. You know, I have a blog that I maintain. I write books. I've written an abstract painting book. It's called Abstract Painting for the Absolute Beginner. You can get it on Amazon. And so I've spent time doing that kind of stuff. Let's see, what else do? I post on eBay. I post ACEOs on eBay. ACEOs are little 2.5 by 3.5 inch paintings. And they're wildly popular on eBay, believe it or not. It's like a thing. It is a thing. And so I just sold one a couple days ago to someone in New York. So that's always exciting. It's like a dopamine hit when you make a sale. So I love posting little paintings on eBay, and I plan on putting some on Etsy too. I just haven't yet. But if you like that dopamine hit of just selling something in general, just selling something, getting that dopamine hit, you know, then I suggest you put some like little tiny paintings on eBay. Something that, you know, ones that are easily accessible because they're so affordable, and ones that you can do fairly quickly. I say that, you know, I say fairly quickly, but actually those little paintings kind of take a while. They take longer than you would think. I don't know how much time I have in a little abstract ACEO, but my guess would be maybe, gosh, I don't know. Wild guess, maybe 20 minutes in each one. 20 minutes, maybe. Probably about 20. And the way I do my ACEOs is I usually take like a 8 by 10 or 11 by 14 piece of paper and paint an abstract on it. And then I cut up the sheet of paper into 2.5 by 3.5 inch pieces. And then I add additional work to each little painting, like drawings on them with acrylic markers or Posca pens and that kind of thing. So like lately I've been drawing little flowers and vases of flowers on my ACEOs. They're just a lot of fun. So as you can see, my painting still looks pretty ugly. Yeah, it's not looking too hot. But I love painting abstracts. They're so much fun. They're just a challenge, you know? They're a challenge. And this painting was a challenge, let me tell you. It went through, gosh, like I've said like 10 times already probably. It went through many ugly stages. And now I'm adding some magenta. I think it was magenta, white, and a little bit of yellow to get this color. Kind of like a, maybe kind of mauve color. But yeah, these marks are creating texture that will show up in the final piece and just make it more interesting, you know? It's not looking like much yet. Now I'm getting ready to use a paintbrush. Switching over to my paintbrush mode. And I have some white. I have very, very light pink paint on that paintbrush. And I'm just kind of blocking in some color. So I'm adding more white. This is mostly white on my brush right now. There's a tiny bit of pink, I think. It's like very, very light. And I'm just kind of covering up a lot of this. It's interesting the colors I used at this stage in the painting because these colors don't really show up in the final piece really at all. And I used less colors in this painting than I usually end up with in the final piece. This painting ended up being a little simpler than a lot of my abstracts. A lot of my abstracts are very, very busy. This one wasn't as busy, really. Still adding white to the canvas. I'm trying to leave little bits of the painting showing through, so I'm not painting the entire canvas a solid white. I'm letting little pieces of the piece show through. Now I'm going to use a paintbrush again. And I'm just covering up the canvas some more. And as you can see, there was some white paint in there that I picked up with my brush. And that's okay if that happens. It'll just add more interest. I'm covering up that corner there with some white. This is kind of a high-key painting right now. If a painting has a lot of light colors in it, if it's mostly light colors, it's considered a high-key painting. If it's mostly dark colors, then it's considered a low-key painting. Yes, this is high-key right now. It ends up becoming a low-key painting in the end, though, because it's mostly dark in the end. I'm just adding more paint at this stage, just adding some more white. This painting took me about an hour, so that's not bad. If I were to sell this, I'd sell it for, oh gosh, I don't know, anywhere between 100 and 175, maybe 150. 147, I think, is what I have on my landscapes that are this size. So, yeah, that's a pretty good little profit. And I hate it. You know, I hate it when people ask me how long a painting took to paint. Because, really, you know, it took me all the years, all the hours I've put in my entire life of painting, that's how long it took to paint it. Honestly. Because you have to have hours and hours, thousands of hours of painting time built up so, before you can actually paint good abstracts. So, when people pay for a piece like this, they're not paying you for the piece itself. They're paying you for all the experience you have in painting abstracts. Okay? They're not just paying you for that hour that you spent painting this piece. They're paying you for your experience. Now I'm using an acrylic marker, just adding some line work in there. And I think I actually had my eyes closed for some of this. Sometimes I really like closing my eyes and adding marks that way. It just makes it more spontaneous and kind of like maybe more authentic in a way. I tried to do a different composition this time than what I am drawn to. I'm really drawn to what I call a triangular composition, where you have your main focal point and then you have two other areas of focal points that are smaller. And if you connected all three of those focal points, they'd form a triangle. That's what I call a triangular composition. And that is like my go-to composition when I paint. So I really have to be careful so that I'm not doing that same composition all the time. It's really challenging trying to break out of that. So now I'm adding magenta to the painting. I think this was basically plain magenta. There may have been a little bit of white in there, maybe. So I'm still using my paintbrush. Okay, this is phthalo blue and magenta mixed in equal amounts. And once again, all of this is going to be covered up in the end. I'm just kind of feeling my way through this painting. It was a very intuitive piece, and what I mean by that is that I just went by my intuition. I didn't think too hard about it, just intuitively painted the whole way through until I got to the very end. Then I was kind of more intentional with my focal point and getting that part of it done. Then I really thought about my composition, and at the very end, like when I enter the final home stretch of a painting, that's when I'm really trying to think more about the composition and pulling out my focal point. Really trying to make it a good, solid piece that's strong in the composition. Yeah, right now I'm not liking it at all. This is not good. But the thing is, you just have to push through and keep painting until you start liking it. Because I could have very easily quit right here and been done with it. Like, not done, like finished, like have a finished painting, but I could have been done and just threw it in the trash or whatever, And by the way, don't throw your canvases in the trash. If you don't like them, paint over them. Because, yeah, you can save these, if they're not good, you can save them. And the paint that's currently on there, even if you don't like the painting itself as it stands right now, the paint that's on there will create texture for your subsequent layers when you start adding more paint to the canvas. So I started painting in 2009, and I'll tell you what, I was walking through Michael's one day. I think I was 32 years old when I first started painting. I think so. I think I was 32. And anyways, I was at Michael's one day and I thought, gosh, I need a project to work on. So I was walking down the aisles and I found this watercolor step-by-step painting book. And I apologize to the author. I don't remember who the author was and what, or I don't even remember the title of the book. But it was a step-by-step sunflower painting. So I took it home and did it right away. And that is when I fell in love with painting. That very day that I bought that Michael's book. So I painted for about, I don't know, maybe a good 6 months. Or maybe a year or two. Yeah, it was probably more like a year or two. I painted, not every day, but I painted a lot until our daughter was born. And then when our daughter was born, she was born in 2011. Yeah, so I would have been painting for a couple years. She was born in 2011, and I didn't paint when she was little. I didn't pick up painting again until I was working at a peer run recovery center. I was the director of that, of the center, and we had an arts empowerment program, and basically it helped people, it was kind of like art therapy, but there wasn't an art therapist teaching. It was just on your own. So it was kind of self-motivated art therapy for the clients, or for the members. I should say members. They weren't clients because it wasn't treatment. It was a recovery center, and where people came. It was kind of like AA, but for mental health. And but anyway, we had an arts empowerment program, and the people in that program, they just oh my gosh, some of the paintings and things they did were just absolutely amazing, and it inspired me to go back to painting as a career. Well, not that I had a career before in painting, but what I mean is it inspired me to pursue a career in art. And so I left. I started painting again in, I guess, probably 2014 or 13, probably 2013 actually, when my daughter was a couple years old. And the whole reason, like I said, I started painting again was because the members of the center that were in the Arts Empowerment Program, they inspired me. They were such an inspiration to me. And I ended up leaving my job in 2016 to become a full-time artist. And that is probably, I loved my job. I really did. But leaving that job was probably one of the best things I've ever done in my life, because even though I loved it, I think being an artist is better suited for my personality. And I just love it. I enjoy it. It's my passion. Yeah, so never looked back. And I've been painting steadily ever since then. Yeah. So I'm adding some turquoise. I mixed phthalo blue, cadmium yellow light, and white for this. And when you mix this color, you want quite a bit of white. You want probably 3 or 4 times the amount of white than you have with phthalo and blue and yellow. Mainly because that phthalo blue is a synthetic color, and it is very, very strong. It is super strong. So I'm painting with a brush again. And this brush is so old and messed up. I say messed up, but it's a great painting brush for abstracts. The bristles are hard on it, and they're all stuck together, but it makes a great brush for abstracts. Don't ever throw away your paintbrushes. Oh my gosh, yeah, don't ever throw them away. I used to throw my paintbrushes away when they got messed up, when they got out of shape, or yeah, if they just got messed up. And I just added some more lines with the acrylic marker. Sorry about that. I forgot to turn the camera back on, so I added those lines real quick. But Anyway, I used to throw my paintbrushes away and just buy new paintbrushes. Well, gosh, don't do that. I learned quickly that I shouldn't do that because the most beaten up paintbrush can make an awesome paintbrush for abstracts. You don't have to have perfect paintbrushes to paint abstracts. As a matter of fact, it's more interesting if they are misshapen or, not in good condition. It just adds a lot to your marks and, your strokes of paint on there. It just makes it more interesting. So now I'm adding white. Covering up some of those areas. Now, some of this that you see on the canvas right now will actually show through in the end piece. Like some of those marks with that acrylic marker down at the bottom left, they'll show through in the final piece. And yeah, so there are a few parts of the canvas now that will show up in the final work. At this point, I'm not really sure where I'm going next. It's an adventure for sure. Every abstract is an adventure. It's a new challenge. Um, it's a way to escape your thoughts and your problems if you have any problems at the moment in life. It's just a way to relax and really, really get outside of yourself. So now putting on this black, this is where I really feel like the painting started to pivot and take on a more refined abstract look. Okay, this was like the turning point, adding this black in here. And I mixed phthalo blue and burnt sienna in equal amounts to get that black. So I'm just brushing on some more black on here. Let's see, so I've been selling my paintings since about, I guess the first painting I sold was probably when I first started painting, probably that year. So I probably sold my first painting in 2009, and since then I've sold, I don't know, over 250 paintings, probably a little over 300 paintings actually. I didn't really honestly start keeping track until about 2020. I use FASO for my website. That's Fine Art Studio Online. That's what it stands for, and it's FASO.com. I highly recommend them. I love, love, love that platform. Like, it acts as a database for my work. So, like, I can go in and search for any piece of art that I've done in the past 5 years. I've been using FASO for 5 years, so I have 5 years of work in my database on that website platform. But that's how I maintain my website with FASO. Anyway, I love them. Check them out. They're reasonable. I pay about $25 a month for the gold plan, and I just love it. But that's how I can keep track of what I've sold. I can keep collector notes in pieces that I've sold. I can record the date they bought it, how much they paid for it, where they bought it, like if it was through a gallery or if it was direct from me. It's a good platform. It's awesome. I love it. So I highly recommend that you have a website if you don't have one already, because, and especially if you're applying to art shows, juried art shows, because a lot of times they will want to know your website address if you have one. And it's just a good way to show your work as a portfolio, and you can group your work into collections like abstracts, still life, like maybe large abstracts, small abstracts, medium abstracts. So you can, group them according to genre or size, color. You can really group them however you'd like. But it's just it's good to have a website. It's good to have somewhere to point people if they want to see your work, Okay, now I'm adding black again, phthalo blue and burnt sienna in equal amounts. And this is where I really this is where I really feel like the painting started to take off, when I started adding all this black in here. It's when it started to really take shape. And see, I'm getting some neat marks with that color shaper. I'm really working it and getting the paint off of there each time. All the paint. Then I added some white to that black. And you can kind of see that phthalo blue in there. Kind of looks like a light blue-gray. Going up in the corner up there. Yeah, it's starting to take shape. And yeah, if you want to sell your work, I'll tell you what really propelled my career forward was when I started showing my work at Inman Art and Frames. It's a gallery and frame shop here in town. That's what really got my career off the ground. I credit them for helping me really, really grow as an artist and start to sell my work. They've sold a lot of my abstracts. And they're just, it's been a great experience showing my work with them. It really has been a great experience. But if you can find a gallery, I'm not necessarily saying that galleries are the end-all be-all, because they're not. In today's world, you can sell your work directly to the customer. You can participate in art fairs. You can sell your art online. So there are many, many ways you can sell your art. It's not just through galleries. But I do, like I said, I do kind of believe that showing my work at Inman's is what really got my career going. And I don't really run sales on my artwork. And generally I don't. The only work I really usually discount are my demos, my class demos. Because they're demos, I offer them a lot cheaper. The 11x14s that I've demoed in class, I usually sell for like $47. So that's like my special, my special pricing on my paintings. They're just like, I look at them as like my gateway drug. Like if you can get somebody to buy a little 11x14 and they love it, like maybe they'll buy a bigger one later, That's how I feel about my ACOs too. If I can like develop a relationship with someone who has collected an ACO from me, or not a relationship, but like just if I can get them to buy an ACO, like then maybe they'll look at my website and see some of my other work and buy something else. Yeah, but I love it when that little cha-ching sound goes off on eBay when I've sold something, or Etsy. Etsy does the same thing. It's a little cha-ching sound. That's like music to my ears when that goes off. I love when I hear that noise, that sound. Okay, so now I'm nearing the end here. I think I have about 15 minutes of painting time left in this. I just ran those shapes off the edge there, and I'm running these off the edge too, off of the other side. I recently joined a painting group. I teach classes at Inman Art and Frames. I teach a lot of abstract classes, like abstract florals and abstracts and that kind of thing. Well, a couple weeks ago I had some realistic painters in my class. They wanted to branch out into abstract work. And anyway, this group of 4 women, they have a painting group. They meet every Wednesday from 9:30 to 2:30. And they paint together. There's one quilter, but the rest are painters, and they just get together and paint from 9:30 to 2:30 every Wednesday. Anyway, they asked us, the rest of the class, if we wanted to join them on Wednesdays. So my friend Becky and I went this past Wednesday, and it was a lot of fun. So I think I'll go back and paint with them some more. I'm kind of looking at it also as like an accountability group, you know. I talked in one of my videos about body doubling. I don't know if you know what that is, but basically a lot of ADHD folks will use body doubling as a method to help them get things done, because a lot of people with ADHD, they don't like doing boring tasks. So if you have a really boring task you have to get done, whether you have ADHD or not, you can use body doubling to help you get it done. And body doubling is when you find somebody else who has a project to finish like you. It could be a totally different project. It doesn't have to be the same kind of project. But maybe you need to update your accounting records, and maybe somebody else needs to write a grant. Okay? Let's just use that as an example. Then you guys can do it in the same room, and you each work on your own projects. And it's like it holds each of you accountable to get your project done, doing them together, you know? And there's also, I hear there's an app that you can get where you can do video calls with anybody around the world. I don't know what the app is called. I'm sorry, I don't know what it's called, but you can get on video with other people, and you guys can do body doubling via video, which I think is so cool. And you guys might not even talk the whole time. You know, you may not even talk. But it's just having somebody there with you that is also working on a project a lot of times helps you get your project finished. You know, it offers that, sense of accountability. Now I'm adding some magenta with a little bit of white in there. And I'm starting to like my piece at this point. I'm actually starting to like it. It's still not done, but I'm starting to like the direction it's going in. Yeah, this is the point when I started to think, okay, I think I'm almost done with this piece. It's starting to really take shape. Now I'm adding orange. This is magenta and yellow together. It's probably double the amount of yellow than magenta. But yeah, I added yellow and magenta together to get this color. Those two colors together make a really beautiful orange. Oranges are hard to mix, but I have found the magenta and cadmium yellow light make just an absolutely gorgeous, beautiful, vibrant orange. Okay, so we're getting near the end. Have about 10 minutes of painting left to do. Adding a little line of orange right there. Couple lines actually. I used to do art fairs. Like we have an art show, an outdoor art show called Funk in the City here in Evansville. I used to do that every once in a while. I think I've done it like 2 or 3 times. But the show has really gone downhill in recent years. And when I say downhill, I don't mean that it's bad. It's just changed. I guess that's more of what I'm trying to say. It's just changed. It's different. It used to be more fine art, like a fine art show, and now it's more like they have like a lot of crafty things and stuff like that. It's not really a fine art show anymore. It's just an art show, not a fine art show. But I don't do that anymore. I find that shows are just so hard to do. It's a lot of work. You know, you got to set up your booth. You got to pack everything. Then when you get there, you got to unpack it. Then you got to set it up. Then you're outside in the elements for the entire day. It could be raining. It could be hot. It could be cold. It's just a lot of, stuff you have to fight when you do these shows. You got to fight the weather. You got to fight the crowds. I mean, the crowds are good because that's who buys your work, right? The crowds. But it's just, yeah, I don't enjoy doing those shows at all anymore. Now, I am doing a pop-up on September 19th at Rare Bird and Inman's in our Inman Art and Frames is it's the gallery and frame shop I was talking about earlier. And then Rare Bird is in there in the same building with them. And they're having a pop-up September 19th. So I am doing that. But it's going to be more of like a fine art type of pop-up. It's going to be like actual, like real art. And very nice things. So I turned it upside down, as you can see. I turned the painting upside down, and now I'm adding black on the left side. And I'm going to really start working with this color shaper here in a minute. Twisting it back and forth, pulling it front and back, and really kind of trying to get all the paint off of there each time. I decided I didn't like it like that, so I'll add more black here in a minute. But I'm almost done with this piece. It's almost finished. Yay! I don't know what I like the best about painting. I don't know if I like the beginning, middle, or end of a painting. I guess finishing it up is the most satisfying of all, but I do like the middle part of painting because that's when the challenging part is. In the middle of the piece, that's when it's very challenging to try and get your composition right, to really get it to look good and professional. See how I'm kind of working with that color shaper? Bouncing it back and forth, front and back. That really adds a lot of interest to your piece. Now I'm adding some white in the corner. Just trying to work with that color shaper again. Getting some neat textures up there. I'm adding some more orange over there to the left. Pulling that over, pulling the line over across the canvas there. And I guess you could say this is a, what do they call it? A cruciform painting. Because the composition is kind of in the shape of a cross. So that's what you would call this composition. Adding some more orange. And I added more yellow to that magenta to make it a brighter yellowy orange. So as you can see, this painting went through so many stages. Now I'm adding white, and it's mixing in with that black. And as you can see, you can really see the phthalo blue in there. It looks like a blue-gray. It's just a really, really pretty color. But that white mixed with that black really makes that gray color come out. Like cool gray. Cool gray. I love cool grays. Well, I like warm grays too. I just love gray. Gray is such a pretty color. I need to paint our kitchen gray. I was planning on painting it. It's still orange. Our kitchen is still this orange, this ugly orange color from when we moved in, when we bought the house. It's still the same color. And I keep saying I'm going to paint the kitchen gray, but I don't enjoy that kind of painting as much. You know, it's so much more fun to do fine art painting than it is wall painting. I just don't enjoy that as much. Actually, I don't like it at all. I'm adding more white. Adding some more white up there too. We're almost done. About 3 minutes left. This was a fun piece to create. It was really a lot of fun. Lots of challenges throughout the process. You know, it's not, well, I mean, I guess I do like paintings that come naturally and just like happen, like all of a sudden, like they're just all of a sudden good and done and, you know, good right away. But yet I like the challenging ones also, you know? I like them both. I mean, I like having pieces that come together right away, but then some that are more challenging, those are fun too, you know? It's the challenge. Add a little bit of pink right there. Add a little pink right there. Get your eye to go around the canvas. Put in a little bit of that pink in different places. Alright, so there we have it. There's the finished abstract. It went through many, many ugly stages, but I finally got there. I finally got it to look pretty good. I really like this one. I like it a lot. Anyway, if you like this video, be sure and give me a thumbs up and comment. Leave me a comment. And be sure and subscribe to this video if you like, or subscribe to my channel, I mean, if you like this video and if you enjoy my channel. And yeah, until next time.